As we look at the quarterbacks in this matchup, we have Jalen Hurts and Davis Mills. There is no need to sit here and spew information to you, so I can validate Jalen Hurts as a start of this week. Hurts is one of the best fantasy quarterbacks this season, as he's leading the 7-0 Eagles team on a tear. Davis Mills, on the other hand, had a difficult week last week against the Titans defense, who's actually given up the 7th most passing yards to opposing quarterbacks. Now he's going against an Eagles defense with 2 of the best corners in the game in Slay and Bradbury. No thank you. I have Jalen Hurts as a start and Davis Mills as a sit this week. Hurts should be able to shred this defense with his arms and his legs. Mills, on the other hand, should be under pressure all game long. It's hard to see a scenario where Mills sees a small amount of any success Thursday night. As far as the running backs go, we need to talk about Miles Sanders and Dameon Pierce. I think that Sanders will have his better fantasy output more towards the end of the game when they start to really rely on him more as they close out the game. On top of that, the Texans are giving up the most rushing yards to opposing running backs. I believe the Eagles will run away with this one, which makes Miles Sanders having a solid fantasy output. The Eagles, however, have a solid defense against the run, and on top of that, they're going to need to throw the ball often just to try to keep up with the Eagles' offense. Dameon Pierce may end up with 20 touches, but the fact is he's not really going to have much production needed to be a viable running back this week. I have Miles Sanders as a start and Dameon Pierce as a sit this week. Miles Sanders has a dream matchup this week, but the problem is that he really isn't the main focal point of this offense. Even with that said, the Texans are so bad that I have to give the nod to Sanders here in this matchup. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. Odds are you will have to start Pierce this week because he's probably one of your best running backs. I have him as a sit here because I don't think he's going to be in that top group of fantasy running backs this week. Now let's look at the wide receivers in this matchup. Starting on the Eagles side, we have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. A.J. Brown is coming off of a 3-touchdown performance and should have yet another solid game this Thursday night. Alongside is Devonta Smith, who should see plenty of targets and have a nice day as well. The Texans secondary has found success this season, but against this Eagles potent attack, they should be tested quite a bit. Now we move to the Texans wide receivers with Brandin Cooks and Phillip Dorsett. There are 3 cornerbacks in Slay, Bradbury, and Gardner Johnson who will take turns on Brandin Cooks. I see the wide receivers from the Texans having a difficult time this week against this solid secondary. I have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith as starts, with Brandin Cooks and Phillip Dorsett as sits. The Eagles should be cooking with gas Thursday, and the main beneficiaries should be A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. On that flip side, I do see the Eagles secondary locking up these receivers. It's a pretty cut and dry outlook really for these receivers for Thursday Night Football. Lastly, let's look at the tight end position and talk about Dallas Goedert, Brevin Jordan, O.J. Howard, and Jordan Akins. Goddard is the easy one to talk about here. He's usually the 2nd or 3rd in targets on this team, week in and week out, and should be able to be started in all formats. The Texans, however, have no clue who the number 1 tight end is. For example, last week you saw Howard with 3 targets, Jordan with 4 targets, and Akins with 2 targets. The week prior to that, you saw Akins with 4 targets, Jordan with 4 targets, and Howard got 0 targets. I mean, it's a poop show down there in Houston. I have Dallas Goedert as a start, and the Texans trio and Brevin Jordan, O.J. Howard, and Jordan Akins as sits. Goddard will always be a viable weekly starter, but there is no way I would recommend any tight end on the Texans roster. There's no way to know who's going to be getting the 5 targets, who's going to be getting the 1 target. Just stay away from the Texans tight ends and only look for Dallas Goedert at the tight end position for Thursday night.